Hello and welcome to my workshop. Today I'm going to do a quick review on a jig that I made for cutting circles. I watched various videos and pinched various different ideas from different people and sort of put together something that worked for me. So I'm going to be using my small Titan bandsaw for this particular project. I have got a second much bigger one, lumberjack one, and that does actually come with its own circular jig, completely different, not anything like this design, but I've found that it doesn't go small enough. I want to be able to cut little 2-inch circles so that I can put them on these stands for these Christmas trees. And the smallest I can go to with the lumberjack is about twice that size, so they're too big for what I want. So but I've used this quite a lot anyway before I got my lumberjack, so I thought I'd just run through it. So basically the idea is that you want to be able to get a square piece of wood that's bigger than the circle that you want to cut, and you want to be able to place it on the bed of the table of the jigsaw and then rotate it around a central point, and that basically will cut you a circle. So the idea being you start with your circular, you start with your square, and as you run the jigsaw blade round, because you're rotating around a central point, eventually you just end up popping out a circle. So that's the idea, and I'll demonstrate that at the end. So what I did was just got a couple of pieces of plywood which I glued together. This effectively is exactly the size of my base for my bandsaw. I did it by feel rather than by measure. So I glued this piece of side on here, and I glued the back on. Once I had that, and once they were dried, I then slid it onto the bandsaw and then measured, and then just drew exactly where this was going to go, just because I wanted it to be a really snug fit. And then once I had that, I was then able to effectively just turn the bandsaw on and run and push that onto the bandsaw base, and that cut this line here. That gave me the exact point that the blade was going to go to when this hit the front of the bandsaw table. I did at the time have, I haven't anymore, but I did at the time have a nail gun as well. So I nail gunned it in place while the glue was setting. Unfortunately my nail gun broke and I haven't got around to replacing it yet. So then, knowing that this is where the blade is going to be, you can then decide what sort of size circles you want to cut. And I wasn't sure what sort of size circles I was going to be cutting, so I just basically drilled a hole every inch away from the blade. So if I drilled a hole 1 inch away from the blade, that's going to mean that I'm actually turning this piece of wood 1 inch away from the blade, which obviously then when it cuts is actually going to produce me a circle that's actually 2 inches across. So just I fell for that a couple of times. Just remember that it's twice the that's the radius. That's the radius. Or is it the other way around? Is that the diameter? I think that's the radius. From this pivotal point to the edge is the radius. Obviously then the diameter is twice that. So drilled holes every 1 inch. I did also do one here that I wanted specifically a 1.5 inch as well. So that was to do a 3-inch circle. So I can do 2-inch circles, 3-inch circles, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then I had a random one out here that I wanted to do for a big circular clock that I was doing for my wife. So yeah, that one there is going to produce me, that's 8 inches, so that's going to be a 16-inch circle. So I was I quite enjoyed doing that clock for her. She really wanted a circular clock, and that was actually why I built this. And it worked really, really well. So what I would say is the smaller the blade you have, I've got a 6mm blade in there at the moment, and the smaller the blade, the better this works, because you really, as you're turning it round, you are producing pressure, pushing the blade outwards, and you really want it to be a very nimble blade that will actually just turn back in. If it's too wide a blade, it just gets stuck in this circle, and you're just constantly fighting it. So if it's a really small blade like a 6mm, it'll just follow the circle that you're cutting. So having got these holes in here, I then just got a piece of wooden dowel. So these were 8mm holes, so an 8mm dowel, and you just basically put that dowel in whichever of these holes you want, bang it through so it's proud of the surface, and that allows you to then get a piece of wood that's got an 8mm hole in it, place the 8mm hole over the dowel like that, and then you just can turn that around, and as you're turning around, the blade is cutting. So things that again have caught me out is obviously the square or rectangle needs to be bigger than, so that one I don't think it's, yeah, just see whether these are going to work. So it appear to have not cut them quite with the circle in the middle. Not sure how I've done that, but these are two ones these are two that I just did just now, just to refresh my memory, because I haven't used this circular jig for a while. And you can see that I cut the piece of wood, so you need to cut the square bigger than the circle. The circle is going to be 2 inches across, so I cut the square to be sort of 2 1/4 to 2.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Again, keeping the square as small as you can, so that the amount of waste on the outside isn't producing too much pressure on the bandsaw blade. So okay, that's the theory. So then it's just a piece of scrap wood that I've got. Again, these squares need to be bigger than, if you're going to cut a circle that's 1 inch in that direction and 1 inch in that direction, then you need a little bit of waste on either side. So I've put a line down here, which means that is more than 1 inch. And then I think I picked 30mm, because 30mm is more than 1 inch. So the line is more than 30, it's 30mm away from there, 30mm away from the edge, and then every 60mm I can put a drill point . Okay, so from this particular piece of scrap wood, I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to get 5 circles. So that's quite good. Okay, so then I'm just going to take you over to the drill press, my drill press, and we'll put an 8mm hole in each of these, to about half of the depth of the piece of wood. I don't want to go all the way through. Again, that's another mistake I made. I put the 8mm drill all the way through, and that's great, except for then what you want to end up with is a piece of wood that looks as if it's a solid piece of wood, but if you drill the hole all the way through, then when you finish with your circle, you've still got a hole in the middle, so that doesn't look very good. So okay, let's go and drill some holes in this then. Okay, so that's given me my piece of wood with 6 individual drill holes, not all the way through, and that will be the central pivot point for each of the circles. So let's go back to the workbench. Okay, so we've got our piece of wood that we just drilled the 6 holes into. So I'm now just going to chop the individual squares yeah. Okay. Okay, so now to place the jig onto the bandsaw, and it just slides on nicely because those guides are in exactly the right place and the blade stops exactly where it should. So now I can put one of these individual pieces on, and I'll basically just put the dowel that's sticking out here into that extrusion point, okay, and then I can basically just pivot it around and it should just cut a perfect circle. So here we go. So there we go, we've got our square and we've cut our circle. You get a little lip here where the pressure is pushing the blade out when you first start, and then it comes back at a very slightly different point, but I just put that on the belt sander and just rub that off. So it's easier just to, I mean I could do it on this spindle sander, or I could do it on my belt sander, which is what I usually do. Just very lightly touch it on the belt sander like that, and that will become a pretty well perfect circle. So hopefully that's demonstrated how this works. If you've got any questions about it, then let me know, and any feedback, that's fine. Put your questions in the comment section down below, and if you've got time to like the video, that would be fantastic, and if you've got time to subscribe to the channel, that would be even better. And until my next video, stay safe.